Is it frustrating that I had to write 75,000 words of a draft that's going to be completely thrown out? Yeah.
Hey everyone, come along with me on a day in my life. My day starts at 6:30 a.m. I know many writers choose to get up earlier than that, but I am not a morning person, and 6:30 is the earliest I could possibly get up and still feel like a human being. I always start my day with a little bit of video editing. I have just found that it is easiest to get done first thing in the morning before every other distraction of the day cuts in. On this day, it was super gloomy outside, but I didn't mind because it made my office look like this, super moody. Outfit of the day, I felt super cute in this one. After I sit down at my desk, I usually start doing my tarot draw. Today, I drew the Wheel of Fortune. The Wheel of Fortune is all about the cycle of life and fortunes changing on a whim. Whenever I draw this card, it's a reminder that if I'm feeling really good, to brace myself for the turn, and if I'm feeling really low, to keep my head up because things will change soon. After I get home from work, I usually do some sort of chore right away because if I even so much as sit down, I know that I won't be able to make myself get up and actually do it. After dinner, once everyone is starting to wind down, I like to sit in my recliner and catch up on some TV, usually AuthorTube. Today, I was catching up with Emily. Oftentimes, I will use this chance to read too, but I wasn't really feeling it today, so I decided to do some cross-stitching. This is just a super cozy, relaxing hobby for me that doesn't require literally any brain power because the pattern is printed on the fabric, so I just have to match the pattern. Around 9 o'clock, once the kids are in bed, it is normally my time to get settled in and start writing, which is what I would do today, except...
Y'all, I am crashing out. Hi, by the way. Welcome to my channel, Just Another Struggling Writer, the Bleaker Authors one-stop shop for commiseration and hopefully inspiration. My name is Carrie Scher, and I am just another struggling writer. Anyway, the struggle is struggling. Oh my gosh. Listen, if you haven't watched my last vlog, I highly recommend going and watching it, at least the last part of it, because that is instrumental to what I'm about to tell you guys. Actually, you should probably watch all of my vlogs since November to give greater context, but the short version is I have been really struggling with the second draft, largely because I had a major B plot that was asserting its dominance over the book, and I was kind of letting it run rampant, and it got to a point where I really didn't even recognize the book anymore. It had really taken a sharp turn from what I originally imagined it. And for a couple of days, I had convinced myself that the way that the book was going and the way that this plot was becoming more like the A plot was actually probably a good thing. And that it was the real version of the book that I needed to write, and that the previous 70,000 words and the entire first draft were just layers of an onion that I needed to peel back to see the true heart of this book. So
that was a fucking lie.
Because here's the problem with all of that. I actually really hated the direction that the book was going. I really hated it. I mean, I was deviating drastically from some of the key things that I really liked about this project. I liked that the focus originally was on the main character integrating into this new magical world. I liked that the Monster of the Week A plot was a central focus. I liked the main character's connection to that A plot. And while this B plot was originally the A plot, I had relegated it to the B plot for a reason. And it becoming more and more prevalent in the second draft was really rubbing me wrong, and I was really struggling with it. Like I said, if you watched all of my last vlogs since pretty much November started, you'll know how much I was struggling. All day long today, it's Wednesday, June. It is Wednesday, January 7th, by the way. All day long, and really for the last 3 days, I have been wrestling with motivation to even finish writing this draft, because in my mind, the third draft is going to need such a major revision that there doesn't seem like much of a point to finishing this draft, especially since the only things that were really changing in context from the first draft anyway is the fight scene that I was just about to start and a little bit of the aftermath of the fight scene and a little bit of the Dark Night of the Soul, but the climax was staying essentially the same. So of the last 40,000 words that I needed to write, how much of it was really changing, and therefore how much of it was it really necessary for me to write. So after struggling the last 2 days to get even 1,000 words, much less the 2,000 I had once dreamed of doing on a daily basis, I woke up this morning and realized that I can't take my book in that direction, in the direction that I tried to convince myself was a good idea. I just hate it too much. It was sucking the joy out of the project. And even just thinking about the revisions for draft 3 to make that version of the book reality, it wasn't what I wanted to write. And it was making me kind of unhappy and making me feel like, okay, well, maybe this isn't the right book for me right now. I should put it aside and work on something else. And that to me was the big ding, 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 something is wrong here moment, because I have never gotten this far with a manuscript before, ever. And while that doesn't necessarily mean this is the right book for the moment, I had gotten all the way up till this point thinking that it was. And just by considering taking this book in a different direction than I had previously imagined was making me feel like it wasn't the right time. It was kind of it was a major red flag that it was not right, that something was not right, and I really should not be considering taking the book in that way if it was making me feel this way. And so what I did this evening was I sat down with my notebook, which is how I get all of my best brainstorming done. I cannot hold on to ideas unless I've written them down on paper with ink. So I sat down with my notebook and I kind of puzzled it out, and I kind of wrote out the new version, what the main character's arc would be in the new version, what the themes of the story would be, certain like questions that would need to be answered if I took it in this way, and a very, very like rough skeleton of an outline. And then when I was done with that, I wrote out the old version and how I would need to adapt the draft 1 to fit with all of the things I've learned about the character and about about certain things of the plot that I do want to keep, and what I would need to do to basically make the next draft just a better version of draft 1 rather than a complete deviation like draft 2 was turning out to be. And spoiler alert, that old version is just what was more exciting to me. I had way more ideas. It felt more natural. It fit in with my vision. I was able to incorporate themes that I was excited about and subplots that I felt were working. And more importantly, it gave me more ideas for later in the series. Specifically, this major B plot that has been asserting itself as an A plot, it helped me come up with an idea to actually save it for book 2 completely. And that actually makes a lot of sense with some of the ideas I already had for book 2. And then that got me thinking, oh, I could do later books in this way based off of this. Anyway, long story short is it just gave me more ideas on how to navigate not just this book, but the rest of the series. And it was just such a fertile ground that it made the choice really kind of obvious. Basically, what I'm getting at is everything I have said over the last couple of days, not that you've seen the last 2 days, but like at least from the end of the last vlog, is being thrown out the window. And a lot of the changes that I have been making to draft 2 since November are being completely thrown out the window. And a lot of the plot that I had been kind of folding into this draft 2 is now actually being excised completely and saved for book 2. Is that crazy? It feels crazy, yet it feels like the most logical thing to do. And once I kind of thought that that's what I should do, I did another skeleton outline of what a draft 3 would look like under this new version of the draft 1 version. And there was really only one plot gap. I wouldn't call it a plot hole, but literally like I wasn't sure how to get from point A to point B. And it was only about 7% of the manuscript. And then I even figured that out. And so I think that's what I'm going to do. Yes, I'm going to rewrite this book again, just like I said I was going to have to on Sunday, but not in the same way that I intended on Sunday. Because I just truly do feel like this broad sketch of an outline is the best version I've come up with so far in more than a year and a half of working on this project. And is it frustrating that I had to write 75,000 words of a draft that's going to be completely thrown out? Yeah. Of course it is. It took me 7 months just to get to this point, and now all of that is being, again, thrown out the window. Not all of it. Certain plot structures are coming over from draft 2. A lot of the work starting from November, for sure, is being thrown out the window. And while that is frustrating, and while I hate that I'm having to basically start draft 2 from scratch, I'm grateful that I caught myself now rather than writing 100,000 words of a draft 3 that I hate. My only question now is whether or not I want to carry on writing this next portion of draft 2 like I had originally intended, just because the shape of this fight scene is staying the same, and I do think it would be useful practice for me to write it, but I don't know that I can carry on with this version of the characters, with this version of the plot, with this version of, how the draft has proceeded, and feel good about it and feel like it's not a waste of time. I really, really feel like I need to be immediately starting an outline for draft 3. Is it technically 3? Draft 2.5? Draft 2 2.0? I don't want to be drafting right now. I want to be answering these questions that I have about this new draft, because there are still some things that I need to answer. This is just a very, very rough sketch, and I want to get into the details to make sure everything kind of works and flows the way I believe that it does. I want to start getting a feel for the character, because I mentioned this in a clip I filmed yesterday that I'm not going to use, but I realized that I was writing my main character wrong, that I had stated she had a certain kind of personality, but I was writing her completely differently. I was writing her as if she didn't have that personality. And so in this new version, I need to harden that personality and really crystallize it, because that is a big part of her actual character arc. And so I need to really lean into the personality I say she has and actually show it instead of just telling it and then writing her a completely different way. And I really want to get into that rather than this version that I have been writing. I truly have not made a decision yet about whether or not to continue with this draft, or at least get through the portion that I feel might be useful to me, or if I should just call it done on draft 2 and get immediately into these changes that I want to make for the new version of draft 2 or draft 3. I don't know what I'm going to call it yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sleep on it and hope that I know better in the morning. I have been on a ride these last couple of days. A ride. I do feel like this is for the best. I do feel like this is for the best for the book itself. Like I said, this is just so much stronger than not just the first draft, but it just feels more cohesive. But it just feels like more of what I envision of this first book to be. Because when you think about it, my original vision was inspired by Monster of the Week style TV shows. And when you think about it, the pilot episode of a TV show doesn't make its B plot so important that it overshadows the A plot, right? It's part of it for sure, but it's not the main focus. And it was becoming the main focus. And I think it'll work better if it is teased in this book and then really delved into in the second book. Please let me know in the comments if you have ever experienced these feelings and these changes in the middle of a draft before, and if you've had to completely rewrite the plot 3 times. I'm sure I cannot be the only one. It just feels frustrating, especially to me, because I did a detailed outline before I got into draft 1. And while, yes, I knew there were weaknesses, I truly did not expect the plot to go on such a radical journey in draft 2 that would necessitate me trying to get back on track in draft 3. I'm blowing my book up. That's what it comes down to. I'm blowing it up, and I'm not starting completely from scratch. I do think that the first draft has a lot of good material, and draft 2 was certainly instructive, even if I'm not gonna be able to borrow much from it. I wouldn't say I'm back at square one, but I can still see it behind me. It's not that far behind me. Anyway, I have now been crashing out for 20 minutes and I'm really, really, really tired. Something about the walk with my dog today wore my ass out. And then I came home and decided I was going to deep clean my stove. I just wore out. And then I sat down and I was thinking about writing and I was like, I don't want to write tonight. I can't make myself write tonight. I can't go sit at my desk and bash my head against this draft when I feel so confused and unsure and almost getting to the point of resentfulness about it. Which then begs the question you might be asking yourself, Carrie, if you didn't write words today, how does that affect your 90-day challenge? And I'm glad you asked because, and this is true, I'm not making this up, I had already thought of this because I knew that at some point I wouldn't be in a drafting phase, I would be in a revision phase. And so for my 90-day challenge, if I am not adding new words to the draft, I will count 2.5 hours of active work, aka a full ladder sprint, as the equivalent of writing 1,000 words. So I have definitely been working on this for more than 2.5 hours. I think I started around 8. I'm counting that as a success, and I am now 1 week complete on my 90-day challenge. Please hold your applause. I know I'm just so impressive. I am gonna go sleep on this big choice that I have to make. I say that, but I'm only like 2.5 weeks out of what would have been my deadline anyway. But I'm gonna go sleep on it. I know what I think I want to do, which is I just want to abandon this draft and then get immediately into revision. But I also know that there is probably still stuff I can learn from continuing, especially with regards to like writing combat. Maybe I'll just write the combat scene. I don't really need to do the debrief scene after the big fight scene because, again, I already know that is changing. It wouldn't be that instructive. But writing combat scene, while, yes, there is a little bit of a difference in the context from what I'm imagining for draft 3 and my character's personality and stuff, it'd still be useful to write the magical combat. It would still be instructive for me to write that because I need to practice that anyway. Anyway, I'm gonna sleep on it. I'm gonna mull it over. But yeah, welcome to another writing vlog. Please enjoy your stay. The only reason I'm still awake right now is because I have not finished my 3rd bottle of water. Hello everyone, it is now, what day is it? Thursday evening, and I have been on a little bit of an emotional roller coaster since yesterday. I slept on the decision of whether or not I was going to just fully abandon this draft that I've been working on for the last 6 months, 6.5, or if I was going to, at the minimum, continue on through this big fight scene that I had been approaching and into the Dark Night of the Soul, just be for a practice and B, just to see how it would play out. And while I didn't land firmly on either side of the fence, I have 2 legs over and I'm hanging off the side of I don't want to write it. I just want to get right into these ideas I'm having for the new draft. I still don't know if it's going to be the new draft 2 and the old draft 2 is just going to be relegated to draft 1.5. That makes the most sense to me, but then I've been calling it draft 2. Anyway, the things I came up with yesterday, particularly about delaying this big mystery about the main character's mother to the second book and all of the connections it would have to the ideas I already had for book 2, and also the way that it just envision the series playing out and how this first book is not meant to be so heavy on certain long-running plots. This is really supposed to introduce Arceli to this new world, this secret government agency. It's supposed to introduce the antagonist of the week concept. It's supposed to just be an introduction. It is not supposed to be so plot-heavy. And it just makes too much sense to veer away from the
from where this second draft was going and get myself back on track with my original vision, to the point where it truly does feel like an exercise in futility to continue writing that now defunct draft. With all the usual caveats that, yes, it's just good practice. The combat, I need more experience with anyway if I want to be good at it, especially for draft 3. There are reasons to continue writing it, but they're all sort of ideological reasons, not necessarily functional reasons. Does that make sense? I went to work this morning, and this story and these ideas and this conundrum with this draft was all I could think about all day long, even as I was doing other work. This is what I was thinking about, like at the back of my mind. After lunch, I got my notebook out, and my goal was only to just write out a list of major reveals, what the major subplots would be, and the character arcs for the major characters for this new version of the draft that I would be writing. And what I ended up doing instead was writing out like a bullet point outline, not quite scene by scene, but pretty close, of the new draft. And I did that mostly because I just wanted to see if I could string all of the ideas together, all of the independent, like, oh, I could I could plug this gap and I could fill this in. If I could take all of those ideas and put them all together into a plot that made sense. I did come to a point right around that first pinch point, exactly where I was struggling last time, where I was like, ooh, I don't know. I came up with a good idea, I think, to keep things exciting and inject a little bit of action into what had become a very, very exposition-heavy sequence. But it also offers an opportunity to advance Arceli's character arc, which for her is truly about finding community, and also gives me the opportunity to write some combat and some magical fighting. That came to me within 5 minutes of arriving at this, ooh, I need something here, but I don't know what it is. After that, everything sort of fell back into place. And what's so funny about it is that there are a lot of elements that I wanted to be in this book that in the second draft just took on a life of their own and ballooned out of proportion. But I believe I am able in this new version of things to kind of wrangle back into just teasers rather than whole full subplots that are taking over the narrative and changing everything. And the two plots that were kind of fighting for dominance are connected, but in my original vision, the B plot was more in the background. And in the second draft, it just became more and more and more important until it was sucking all the oxygen out of the narrative. And as I was getting back to the A plot stuff, I was like, I barely remember what this is about because so much of the last 20,000 words have been about this other thing. I feel like this version is more true to my original vision. It makes more sense in terms of pace. It makes more sense in terms of the tone I'm trying to set. It makes the idea of this draft feel so much less bloated. I made some executive decisions about some big reveals that were troubling me in draft 2, and I just decided to not make them real reveals. I decided to, like, my character already knows this kinds of things. And so there's just so much. I can't really talk about it all without really getting into the nitty gritty of the plot, but there's just so much that started really falling into place as I was putting together this bullet point outline. And so it is with a lightened heart, I think, that I am going to set aside what was draft 2 and start focusing my efforts on what will ultimately be draft 3, I guess. I was so energized by that bullet point outline this afternoon that when I came home, I was like having to restrain myself from just opening my laptop and starting the draft right away. I do want to do a detailed outline next. I don't know that I'll do my version of the detailed outline just because I've done it enough. I've done 3 versions of it now. And while yes, there are scenes that are different and scenes that are added and scenes that are taken away and plots that are moved around. More or less, I've written the better part of 2 drafts and I've had 3 outlines. I'm fairly comfortable. I'm fairly comfortable where my worksheets, which are truly like exploratory documents, aren't needed. But at the same time, I really like the idea of trying out a version of Meredith's outlining template. I took a look at it earlier today and it's got some stuff in there that I don't think that I need. So then I considered maybe I should take parts of her little outlining template and incorporate it into a new version of my scene outline worksheets. But the other thing about the scene outline worksheets is that they do take a lot of time. I truly don't know what I'm going to do next. I do know that I want to have like a detailed outline that I can import into Dabble before I start the draft. And then the other thing I was considering is that if this is going to be draft 3, and if I'm going to be focusing my efforts on this, and if I am truly abandoning draft 2, which took me 6.5 months to just get this far, I need to make draft 3 really good. And not just from a plot perspective, but from a craft perspective. So what I thought that I might do, and I haven't really decided yet, is edit as I go. I have done a version of this when I was writing semi-professionally for Scribd, which is now Everand, which is a subscription service. I wrote romance novellas, but the edits on those were so much less intense, and there was also like time pressure, and I knew that they were going to be looked at by an editor, so I haven't really, that's a lie. I was going to say I haven't come to a decision, but it's the same sort of deal as I mentioned before. I'm very strongly leaning towards doing that because if I want draft 3 to go out to critique partners, I want it to be pretty clean. I don't want to send it to critique partners and get the critique back, well, you're writing a lot in passive voice. I want to eliminate all of the like early draft artifacts and, you know, just the stuff that you do find in early drafts as you are telling yourself the story. I want to eliminate all of that so that the critiques can be focused on like the plot and what makes sense and if the character arcs are boring and, you know, stuff like that, rather than the actual craft. I want it to be craft sound. And if I'm going to do that, I think I need to be editing as I go. I think I can accommodate doing that because I'm no longer spending the next 2.5 weeks on writing a draft that is going to be ultimately useless to me. As it stands here on Thursday, January 8th, I am abandoning draft 2 and going into what I guess I'll call draft 3, but with a different plot shape in mind. I mean, the A plot has always been basically the same. In draft 1, it wasn't as robust, which is why I focused on making it more robust in draft 2. And then what happened was as that felt more robust, the B plot and everything else felt lackluster. And so I tried beefing up the B plot, and I realized I needed the B plot to be introduced so that when I connect the A plot to the B plot, it makes sense. And my main character didn't have all this information, so I had to find out where I was going to include this information. And then as part of that, I made the B plot matter to the main character way more than I had anticipated. And so it became the only thing she cared about, which was overriding the A plot. Anyway, it just, like I said, it just ballooned out of control. The other thing is that she's going to need my main character is going to need a little bit of a personality overhaul. I talked about this yesterday, and that's kind of related to her character arc. I'll just go ahead and say it. One of the main components of Arceli's character arc is that she has abandonment issues. Her father passed away when she was young from illness, and then her mother kind of spiraled and went off the grid, and she was in and out of the main character's life after that, then fully went missing around her 15th birthday. And so she has issues with attachment and feeling abandoned. And so all of her relationships are affected by this. And so that's kind of the arc that she goes on, is finding community and opening herself up. And so I just need to make her personality match that a little bit more, because the way that I have been writing her, especially in draft 2, she was like, yeah, I'm really excited to learn all about this magic stuff, and these people are offering me an opportunity, and I want to be included in all that stuff. And while she does want all that, those are the things that like are very buried deep down, and she needs to find that. The whole point of the arc is to discover that. It's not something that she's feeling right, out in the open at the very beginning of the book. Does that make sense? I feel like I'm rambling, because I am. I still haven't finished my water. Have you ever drank so much water that starts to taste nasty? That's what I feel like right now. I think for the next 3 days, I'm going to figure the hell out what I'm going to do about this outline. In an ideal world, the full detailed outline will be complete by Sunday. And if we lived in an ideal world, it would look a lot different, wouldn't it? That's my plan for the rest of this vlog. What a ride we have been on together over the last couple of days, huh? But I put it in my, in the writing Discord I'm in, should I get right into this revision after abandoning a draft in the middle? Or should I take some time to let these ideas percolate? And my friend Ian, thanks Ian, was like, nah, bitch, get into it. He said it nicer than that. I added the nah, bitch. But anyway, so, which just was the confirmation bias I needed to greenlight myself to go ahead and do it. That is really all I have for you. So tomorrow I'm going to really look at Meredith's template. What is really drawing me to her process is the magic cookie thing. I really would like to go through and make a detailed outline specifically assigning each scene a magic cookie, but there is also something to be said for just making sure that each scene flows into the next like I think it should, because something I have noticed over these last couple of drafts is that I think it all connects, and then I'll write the scene, I'll be like, oh crap, I have to, one scene they're at Arceli's grandmother's house, and the next scene they're at the headquarters. I need to establish how they got there, kind of thing. I have found that a lot of times when I'm outlining, I forget about the connective tissue between scenes. But because I have written this now twice, or most of it anyway, I know where some of those squishy parts are, and I've already accounted for some connective tissue, but I just know that I'm not going to see it. Oh my gosh, and like this reimagined version like rescued a scene that I had already mentally consigned to the cutting room floor for draft 3. It rescued it, and then anyway, it's just so funny. It's just so funny how this whole process has been. And the thing I keep telling myself is that the more experience I have writing books, the more streamlined it'll get. So I should not expect every book to meander this badly and take this long. That is the comfort I am trying to give myself. It really does burn me up that I spent 7 months on this draft and I'm just walking away from it. And I wish I could stress to you how much the change will be. It's as much as the draft 2 departed from draft 1, draft 3 will be departing from draft 2, but it is coming back towards draft 1 in what I feel like will be the true draft 2. This is my dilemma with what I'm going to call it, because the current draft 2 almost feels like a 1B, you know what I mean? But it's not. And then I looked at my document where I was saving all of the words that I copied over, and I was just doing that for fun, just to see what percentage I would arrive at of words that were saved from the original draft. And at 75,000 words, I was at 9,000 had been copied over. So that's 12%. So I really wasn't taking a lot. That's how much different it will be. And while I do anticipate this new draft to be really similar, even though I'm coming back towards draft 1, I just feel better about it. I just feel so much better about it. I just need to make sure that I don't meander again and get and let some of these anxieties I have about the draft, some plot holes that I fill in, and some questions I have to just balloon out of control, which is what happened. I had a question, I had a problem, I had a conundrum, and I tried to solve it, and the solution didn't seem like that big a deal at the time, but as I integrated it into the plot, it just, it got its roots in, and then it was everywhere. Anyway, I'm gonna go to bed. I feel very tired for some reason today. I don't know if it's just because of all this mental work energy I've been expending on figuring this out, but I'm also just physically tired. I got home and I immediately changed clothes and put my tennis shoes on to walk the dog, right? And as I was getting dressed, I was like, I am too tired to do this today. I really don't want to. I'm too tired. I already have 2,200 steps, and a full lap that I've been doing usually gets me about 3,300. So I don't need to do the full lap. I could shave off a little bit, and I'll still get the 5,000 plus all of the walking I do. Oh no, my watch is almost dead. Yeah. So even after I got home, I got another 1,000. So I really didn't need to do the full lap. And so I was like, I'm not going to do it. I didn't even want to listen to the audiobook today. I was truly just done with everything about this challenge, hence the water. I got to the point where I would have turned around, and I just decided to keep going. And I was listening to the audiobook. So like I go up one side of the street, and then I cross the street, and I come back down the other side of the street. And by the time I got to the point where I was thinking about turning around on the other side, I was like, oh my gosh, I should have turned around sooner, because I was so tired. I just was like, I felt at like 5% battery, and I still had like 10 more minutes of walking to do. And it's really not far. I'm just out of shape. It's just a hair under 1.5 miles. So it's really not that much. I am just out of shape and complaining. It's just been a hard day for this challenge, because like none of the tasks seemed appealing except the tarot draw, which, you know, again, was my gimme task. All right, y'all. Thanks for listening to me ramble. The timer on my camera says 27 minutes. I have no idea how much I'm going to edit this down, but thanks for being here. The vlog is not over. I don't know why I'm talking like it is. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Hey y'all, it is now Friday evening. I have just left work. I had to stop at Walmart and pick up some items for my daughter because she has a dress rehearsal for show choir tomorrow. I just wanted to stop and chat for a second about just some things I've been thinking about and my plan for the weekend. So the first thing I wanted to mention was I'm on day 9 of this 90-day challenge, and I was just closing up the office. And as I was turning out the lights and locking the door, I had this moment where I was like, would anyone really care if I didn't complete this challenge? Truly, if I just quietly dipped out and never mentioned it again, would anyone really care? Would anyone truly give a shit? Would anyone find me online and be like, hey, whatever happened to the 90-day challenge? I mean, I guess maybe they would, but like, would they really care? Would they really be like upset about it? Or would they say, hey, it's a tough challenge, do what's best for you, the way that good friends would probably do? And I think that's probably the case. I think if I came on here and said, hey, by the way, it just got too hard, so I decided it wasn't for me, most people would probably be supportive of that decision. But there is one person who would care. There's one person who would be disappointed and let down, and that would be me. And in the past, I would laugh it off and say, well, I'm used to disappointing myself, so it's fine. I don't feel like that today. I don't feel like it would be fine to let myself give up on a challenge. As a reminder, we are only 9 days into. So here I am. I really don't want to go walking today. I really don't. I'm really not enjoying the audiobook I am listening to while walking, but the synergy of walking and listening to the audiobook is just too time efficient. And so picking up a book that I actually do want to read does not scratch the same efficiency itch that I have in my brain, and that makes it less enjoyable in that way.
Don't ask. I'm really behind on drinking water too. I had kind of a crazy day at work. And really what I want to be doing is writing. I want to be working on this revision plan and outline for draft 3 of Seekers. And given my druthers, what I would do is I would just go straight home. I'd change into my comfy clothing. I would prepare my kids to spend the weekend at their dad's, and then once they were gone, I would just immediately dive into my revisions. But the whole point of this, right, is to change my life. My health is something that I really need to start paying better attention to. I've just had some concerns start to arise. Nothing really serious yet, but if I continue to ignore them, they could be problems, and I just know that I need to be better. Okay, the stuff I had ordered came out, so I am now at CVS. Anyway, so there's just the walking and the water in particular were the two things that I had isolated as things to help me get started on taking my health more seriously. And what a surprise, they have been the hardest to implement. All of that to say, I am the one who would be most impacted by giving up on this challenge, which makes sense. I mean, the challenge is for me. It's not for anyone else. It might be entertaining to you guys, but it's really for me. But I have been a person who, again, I'm used to disappointing myself. I'm used to letting myself down. And so self-imposed challenges, deadlines have traditionally not really helped me that much. I rely on external pressure. When I'm starting to talk myself out of the external pressure of, I posted this online and if I don't follow through, I'll be embarrassed. When I start to like talk myself out of it, like who would really care? I start to get concerned because that is just like, that's when I start making excuses to get out of it. All that to say, I'm just struggling a little bit with the challenge. Yes, it is day 9, but to be fair, habits are the hardest to implement kind of after the initial like motivation wears off, but before they've really set in, and I'm right in that zone. But I think the most important thing for me to do today, as much as I want to get into writing, which is my highest good, I think I just need to go home and do the walk and listen to the stupid audiobook and drink some water. I think I'll probably get on the walking pad today. Today feels like a day where, since I am struggling, it might behoove me to get on the walking pad. But if I'm going to be on the walking pad, I don't necessarily want to listen to something. I want to watch something. Anyway, we'll work it out. The other thing I wanted to mention was that I have given myself permission to reread the Scholomance trilogy as voice training. Because while I do want the overall tone of the book to be like Gideon, I do feel like I need some of Elle's personality from the Scholomance trilogy to help me get into the head of Arceli more. Arceli and Elle aren't 1-to-1 ratio. They have completely different like wants and needs and completely different circumstances that have made them feel so prickly. But I am not really good at writing prickly, and so I will just take whatever I can get to get that prickliness, to let that soak in. I love the Scholomance trilogy. I finished it last year, and it's easily now one of my top 3 favorite series of all time. And I have been really looking for an excuse to reread it and annotate it, and I think this is a fairly decent excuse. I think if I'm gonna go on the walking pad and skip the audiobook, I think what'll motivate me to read is the idea that I can pick up A Deadly Education, which is why I'm actually at the CVS. I'm going to go in and see if they have like a set of markers and pens for annotating, because this is definitely a series of books. These are definitely books that I want to write in and want to annotate, and because I'm not going to be giving them up. That's my plan. And then for writing tonight, I went ahead, as you saw, and rejiggered my scene outline worksheet. I am pretty pleased with what I came up with. I kind of took some elements from Meredith's template and just some research I had done into like what every scene needs, which is a goal, an obstacle to that goal, and then some sort of resolution to that obstacle. Usually you don't want it to be good so that it pushes you forward to the next one. So I just called it the hook. Basically just something to make the reader want to turn the page and read the next chapter or the next scene. And then I also incorporated the magic cookie thing, which Meredith got from Susan Dennard. I went and I read Susan's blog post from like 2013 where she talks about the magic cookie, and I kind of got a little bit of a grasp on that. Anyway, I'm pretty pleased with this new version of the worksheet, and so I think my next step is to do my detailed outline on these new worksheets. I have decided that getting straight into the draft
is not what I need right now. I need to do a little bit of a outlining revision phase before I get right back into the draft. But even just rereading over the first chapter, which is what I did today on my lunch break, I already could see like some areas where I'm like, oh, I was using filtering words there, or why would this character have this question? He should already know X, Y, or Z, so I should rephrase this so that it's a statement rather than a question, you know. So I can already feel myself slipping into revision mode, and I think that's a good thing for what this draft will be, which is, you know, I'm going to be writing it, but I'm also going to be editing as I go. So anyway, my goal for this weekend, I almost said that I would like to finish these scene outline worksheets, but I don't know how feasible that is. I will not have the children. They will be with their dad this weekend, and I do want to go to the coffee shop and get some writing done. I haven't been to the coffee shop in months. I think that will really help me focus. Either way, regardless of whether or not I finish, I will definitely be working on it all weekend. That's my writing plan. I'm gonna go check out what they have in terms of markers and pens and things for annotating, and then I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna walk that fucking dog, and I am going to slay day 9 of this challenge. I just realized I said I was gonna walk the dog when I got home. I'm not doing that. I'm walking on the walking pad, but still.
I think I'm invisible, barely a ghost. 'Cause when I walk, they look right through me, and when I talk, no one can hear me. If I disappear today, I bet no one would know. I'm sorry if that makes you worry. I know loving me is such a burden. This siren's going on and on and on and on and on inside my head. I think there's something wrong here, but I'm just too afraid to leave my bed. There's rumors going on and on and on and on since you left me on red. Something strange is going on here. I'm starting now to think I might be dead.
Hey y'all, I do not have a lot of battery, so I'm going to make this quick. It is now Saturday, early afternoon, and I am not going to lie, I slept in until after 11. Yesterday evening was just a little bit of a struggle for me. I did manage to get my tasks done for the 90-day hard challenge, but it was a big struggle. Not just the walking, but the water and the reading, and it was just, it took a lot out of me. I really was not feeling it yesterday, and I'm really not feeling it today. I woke up probably around 8:30 originally, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna get up, I'm gonna take the dog for a walk, I'm gonna take a shower, I'm gonna do my morning routine, and then I'm gonna go to the coffee shop and do some coffee shop writing. And I laid there, and I laid there, and I laid there, and I did not want to do any of that. I didn't want to do any of it. It just sounded so much like an impossible feat. And so I rolled over and went back to sleep. And then like at 9:30, my partner, like the dogs were getting up and my partner was waking up, and I again was like, okay, you've had another hour, and I still didn't want to get up. And so I rolled over and went back to sleep again. And so the compromise I have made for myself today is I'm going to get back on the walking pad. I'm not going to go out today. I mean, the other thing was with the walking is part of what woke me up was the wind rattling the windows. And so I looked, and it is pretty windy today. And it is also like the temperature has dropped. So we're back down into the low 50s. And at 8:30 in the morning, it was like, oh, it's 34 degrees, but it feels like 26 with the wind chill. And I was like, I do not want to go out and walk in that, because I've mentioned it before, I will say it again, I am a desert creature. I don't handle the cold very well. So I'm not going out today. I don't have it in me. In fact, I was telling my partner, I was like, I don't even want to see the outside world today. I want to be a hermit, but I still have to get all my tasks done. So walking pad it is. I'm going to save that for a little bit later though. Anyway, in terms of writing, I got a little bit done, but I was just feeling so not myself for some reason, feeling really, I don't know. I think I just wigged myself out and made myself all frazzled for no reason. Anxiety brain, that even just working on these scene outline worksheets, which I was really excited to do, you may recall, was difficult. And part of it was because I'm not giving myself as much wiggle room to be like, well, I'll just figure it out in the draft in this outline. That is in part response to like feeling that I was not diligent enough in my previous outlines, and that is why draft 2 went so far off the rails. So I am being a lot more detail oriented and a lot more intentional with these worksheets. And so the opening of chapter 2, I have decided to drop a little bit of exposition, which in the previous iteration, that exposition was dropped in the middle of chapter 2, and it felt kind of clunky and like it really broke up the flow, and I wasn't in love with the way that I wrote it. So I'm moving it to the beginning of chapter 2, so that way the end of chapter 1, we learn Arceli has magic. And at the beginning of chapter 2, we go, this is how she found out about that she had magic. And it's not long, you know, my plan is no more than like 800 words, but just a little bit of information for the reader to latch onto, rather than just moving on with the plot, which is what the previous 2 versions did. But as part of writing that, I wanted to make sure that it answered certain questions, like if she has magic, why doesn't she just use magic to break out of jail? Or like, why does she keep it a secret? Why is it so important for her to keep, like, just things that I feel like a reader would naturally question. I just want to knock that out right away so that they can focus on the plot. Does that make sense? And so in the past, what I would have done was just say, I'll just figure it out in the draft. I did not let myself get away with it. I was asking myself questions, and I was like, well, she could do this, but no, it wouldn't make sense, and really working it out. It ended up taking me like an hour of brainstorming just to get through, but I got there in the end, and that is just how my process for this third draft, which is, I guess, is what I'm calling this draft, even though it feels more like draft 2B, although the original draft 2 feels more like draft 1A. But anyway, I don't know. The point is this is just how I'm going to be approaching this particular draft. I'm going to be a lot more detail oriented. I'm going to be I'm not going to be giving myself as much wiggle room to just be like, well, I'll just figure it out and assume that the magic will happen. I'm going to be really, really diligent with it and really focused and really like intentional. As I said, it is about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I have a laundry list of things that I want to get done today. Some of it I can foist off onto tomorrow. That is kind of how my Saturdays go. I make this huge list, and then I go, well, this can really wait until tomorrow. So this can wait, that should not wait. This I should get done today. Really, the only things I really need to get done today is I need to script a video. I need to write a little bit of my short story project, because as fun as it was to outline, I actually at some point have to write it, and this was one of the ones that is like the longest at 5,000 words. So I would like to write like 750 words today towards that, but I need to do some like prep work on that. Like I need to come up with the characters' names. I need to come up with a little bit of lore and history for this floating island. Those are the 2 must-do things that I need to do today. I've got some homework, a little tiny bit, not much. I would like to film the video that I'm going to be scripting. We'll see. And then I have a Substack post that I would like to start drafting. And then I need to just do my regular video edits. But if I could get that video finished, that would help me out for tomorrow. And then writing. So I have written down here, I would like to outline 8 to 12 scenes. Where would that put me? 8 to 12 scenes. If I got to 12, which I've done 2.5, so that would be 9. That would get me through the end of Act 1. I think that's reasonable. I think I could probably do that. So I'm going to start with that just because that's what I feel the most energized by. I would also really like to start A Deadly Education. I forgot that I did start annotating this, but it was really before I had a good annotation system. But I got my annotation markers. I'm going to go get a new color palette. I'm going to pull all of these out. And anyway, I just have so many things that I want to do and so little time, especially when I sleep for 12 hours straight. Also, the other big thing I am sure I'm going to accomplish today is I'm going to get to less than 30 days behind on my AuthorTube backlog. I am currently on December 9th, and today is January 10th. So I think if I sit here and work on my worksheets and watch, I will for sure get out ahead of 30. I will get under 30 days. I'm so excited. I can't wait to catch up and be able to like participate in active conversations. And anyway, that's what's going on. It's just going to be a lazy Saturday. Like I said, I told my partner that I was not interested in going outside or even being perceived by the outside world at all. So I put sweatpants on. I'm nice and comfortable. I've got my heated slippers on, and it's just going to be a nice cozy day indoors. I wasn't planning on checking in so quickly, but I can already feel myself doing that thing as I'm working on this outline where I want to overcorrect. One of the big changes I am making between these drafts is that I am hardening my main character's personality a little bit, just a little bit, really just making her a little bit less like receptive to this new world that she's coming into, and like the people who like she meets who want to welcome her and like be nice to her and be her friend. She's just a little bit like standoffish to them because she has trust issues, and she specifically has abandonment issues. And I can already feel myself as I'm working through this outline wanting to darken the tone of the book, and that's not really what these shifts in her personality is meant to do. I still want the same kind of Gideon the Ninth-esque tone where it's informal, it's irreverent, it's kind of crass sometimes, because that is also part of her personality. The only thing I am changing between the last two drafts and this one, and she was more like this in draft one, of course. Draft two was where she really became this like, I'm totally open to everything and I actively want to be a part of this, and which she does, but that's like the deep inner secret that she has to uncover. That's like part of her character arc. Anyway, so I forgot what I was saying, but anyway, I can just feel the changes that I'm making. I could just feel myself wanting to be like, to change the tone of all of this when that's not really the purpose. So I just need to be really cognizant of that as I'm working through this outline. So it's been interesting so far. I've already rewritten the very first scene is staying the same. And then I'm just moving this exposition mini like scene, almost like a sequel to the beginning of the chapter. And then really nothing else will change. And yet I can feel myself wanting to change everything. I'm just having to be really mindful of how I am proceeding with this outline. Y'all, it is 9:19 p.m. and I think I'm about to make the biggest mistake of my life. I'm gonna get on the walking pad in my slippers. Both of those seem like bad decisions, and yet here we are. Okay, so that wasn't as much of a mistake as I feared, but it wasn't pleasant. And not for the reason that I was expecting. I was expecting to slide right off the end or trip over myself, but what actually got me was these things have no support whatsoever. But I did it. It took me 40 minutes, but I got my 5,000 steps. And then I ate dinner, and now I am here with my book for the day, Night House. I am just feeling in the mood. Something about what I was outlining earlier just put me right in the mood for Alex Stern. So I'm going to read my 25 pages, and then, I think I'm going to script my video for tomorrow, and then we'll just see what time it is. But as of right now, the only two tasks I have left for my 90-day hard is the reading, and I have one more bottle of water left. So I'm going to do that. If there's time, I will get back to my worksheets, but we'll just have to see. I did sleep until 11:15, and then I took like a power nap in the middle of the day. What I did was I laid down because I wasn't, I was just feeling out of sorts. So I laid down for like an hour, and I definitely slept. So I'm guessing it was like 15 minutes. All that to say, it might be 11 o'clock now, but I've still got some life in me because of all the sleeping that I did earlier. Hello again. It is now just after midnight, and I am finished with my reading and my water, which means I can go to bed at any time. I am going to give it a few minutes though, probably another 45 minutes to an hour, just to make sure that all the water passes out of my system, because lately, as I've been drinking all this water right before bed, it has made me have to get up in the middle of the night. And as someone who suffers insomnia, that is the worst. So, what was it for? I'm going to give it a little bit to make sure that's all passed through me, and then I will go to bed. With that time, I think I'm going to return my worksheets, because I wanted to get through, I think, what did I say earlier, 12 scenes, or at least the first act, and obviously that has not panned out. I think I redid the first 3 scenes on these worksheets like 3 times each, because I was really struggling with just how I was feeling about this whole thing. I was feeling really out of sorts. I think what my problem has been is that I have been overthinking it. So everything I said earlier this morning about being really critical and making sure everything makes sense before I'll move on in the outline was a bad idea, because then I was overthinking it. I was being too critical, and really what I just need to do with these scene outlines is just make sure that it makes sense chronologically. And so it was about 6 o'clock, and I came and I sat down again and I trashed everything I had done in the morning and started fresh, and I feel better. Anyway, it's just been a weird day. Everything has been like 2 to 3 hours delayed because I was up 2 to 3 hours later than I normally would be. Hence the walking at 9 o'clock at night and then dinner at like 10:15. Anyway, it's just been a weird day. I also got the first 153 words written for Project Float. So I did that. I was going to write like 700 words, but I'm just too fried for really good drafting right now. So I'm going to try and get back into that tomorrow. It's really interesting because like I'm very cognizant that I don't have time to linger. The first couple of paragraphs have been, what is the most efficient way to establish who my main character is and like the kind of person he is and all that. And it's just like, oh, he was sleeping off a hangover on the beach. That's how we find him. So like, that's a really efficient way to be like, okay, we know kind of where this kid is at mentally a little bit. Anyway, so it's just been an interesting exercise so far. I think I'm enjoying it, but I'm too tired to tell, and I'm eager to get back into it and see how it progresses. I did not script my video, but I started to, and then I was like, I don't think I'm going to script it after all. I think I'm just going to kind of wing it. I did think about scrapping it and moving it to like later in the year when I could really be thoughtful and intentional with it. It's an unpopular opinion video on like certain writing conventions, and part of me was like, I could go like pull examples from famous books, but I truly do not have the energy for that. And while maybe one day I'll be that kind of creator, it is not this day. I'm just gonna kind of wing it. Sorry in advance to people who are interested in the really well-researched version. And that's it. That's kind of been my evening. And I got under 30 days on my AuthorTube backlog, finally. It is after midnight now, so technically today is the 11th, but I am already on the 12th of December of videos, so I am, I'm staying ahead. Oh my gosh, December has 31 days, so I need to be one day ahead in order for it to be less than 30. Oh, okay, well, whatever. I made it. Oh, and I finished editing Tuesday's video. Finished, knocked that out, got it uploaded. Despite the weird day, I have managed to get quite a bit done in a way you could call the crash out I had earlier about feeling stressed about these worksheets productive as well, because it helped me realize that I was overanalyzing and trying to overcorrect when really there's really no need for it. So I am gonna watch a few more AuthorTube videos. I may do 1 or 2 more worksheets, and then I am going to bed, and I will see you tomorrow. That is technically later today. Look, we got another one. Purring ASMR. Hey y'all, it is now Sunday evening. Actually, it's pretty close to 10 o'clock, and I am just now sitting down to get my writing done for the day. I have had kind of an interesting day. Once again, felt a little bit discombobulated. This time I wasn't really mentally out of sorts, just things weren't really working out for me. I tried painting my nails at around noon, and I put a third coat on because this is a really light shimmery pink and I could still see through it. And I decided to put a third coat on, and it just didn't dry properly. I don't know if I just didn't wait enough time in between applying the layers, but after like 2 hours, it was still smudgy. And I was like, I need to get a move on with the rest of my day. I can't just sit here waiting for my nails to dry. So I got my camera set up for the video I had to film today. And as I was just sitting there, I just noticed that everything I touched, it was just smudging and horrible, and like I was able to just rub it off like with my fingers. Also, I was just really struggling with the video. I decided I wasn't going to script it, which was a huge mistake. I was all just like discombobulated from that, and then I was like, well, I guess I'll just take off the polish and then reapply it properly this time. And then as I was sitting down to do that, I was like, well, I'm going to lose the light if I don't film, so I better do that now. So then I went back to the filming setup and managed to power through it. It is the next video you're seeing, by the way, so sorry if it's a little all over the place. Then I sat down and then I redid my nails, and it actually was fine that time, and I only did 2 coats, and maybe that's all it needed to be. Then my kids came home, I made dinner, I read another 25 pages of Ninth House by Lee Bardugo. I'm really, really liking it, and I'm also getting to a point where I'm having a hard time putting it down once my 25 pages are up. And if it weren't so late in the day and I still didn't have so much to do, I probably would have kept reading, but by then it was almost 8 o'clock and I still hadn't walked yet. So did my walking. I'm finally getting to a place where it's not quite as exhausting. I think this walking pad has really helped with the mental side of things as well. Something about going out with the dog and being outside has presented a little bit of a mental hurdle for me on some days, especially these last 2 days. And so just knowing that I have the choice of the walking pad and being able to do it has really helped me overcome that like paralysis. I have also found that if I set my walking pad speed to 2.6 miles per hour, I am walking about 1,000 steps every 10 minutes. And so I can precisely time the timer on the walking pad to exactly how much I need to get to 5,000. Today it was 35 minutes. And so I put on some AuthorTube on the TV and I just walked for 35 minutes. And I did find myself going, oh, how much longer at times during the walk? But it was only in like the last like 8 minutes that I was really starting to feel like I was worn out, but I was still able to push through. So that's going swell. Tomorrow I am going to return to the walkies outside though. So I did that. And now I'm here. Now I am here. So I am on scene number 6 that I am outlining. I am going to just work until bedtime, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to work in bed. I haven't done that in a while, but I am not working with my computer, so I don't necessarily need to be at my desk. Not that I have a laptop, so it's not like I need to be at my desk when I'm working anyway, but I think I just want to be comfortable. I don't want to be hunched over a desk, and I would like to watch some more TV while I get it done. That is the benefit, I guess, I would say, of doing these scene outline worksheets, is that I'm pretty familiar with the story by now, especially this first part. This first section isn't changing hardly at all. In fact, this scene is the same. The next scene is the same as it was in draft 1, except in draft 1, I was struggling with it, and so I faded to black and never came back to it, and never actually wrote it. And then in draft 2, it was totally different. My plan for it this time is to kind of merge my original idea for draft 1, even though I never actually wrote it. I just was like, no. And I just like dipped out of writing it. And then some ideas I wrote in draft 2 and kind of merged them together, because the draft 2 version I feel like lines up more with the way I am writing Arceli's character this time around. But the draft 1 version is less extreme. I don't know how to describe it, but basically Arceli's grandmother really doesn't like that she's accepted this job to the government, and in the draft 2 version they have like this huge blowout fight about it, and basically said, don't ever come back here while you're still associated with them. That felt just a little too harsh at the time, and so I'm gonna ease off of that and just make it like there's friction about it, but not like relationship ending friction. So that's changing a little bit. And then after that, all the way up through the end of Act 1 is not changing at all. Let's see. So Act 2 is going to be where the majority of the changes are. Act 2, Part 1 specifically, from about the 25% mark through the 55% mark. That is going to be the section of the manuscript that sees the most change yet again. But again, I've already kind of skeletonized it out and just taking what I learned from the first two drafts. I think I've got a good blend of exposition and A-plot stuff, as well as the B-plot, which is now, it is no longer that mystery that Arceli was trying to solve in draft 2. The B-plot is now more about her integration into this magical world. And so I think I've got a good blend of that. What else? I think that's it. This has been a little bit of a wild ride of a week in terms of writing, hasn't it? I started off the week, which I filmed on Monday and Tuesday, and I ended up scrapping the footage because I was still in that mode where I was trying to convince myself that the direction the draft was taking was still the right one and that it was the true heart of the book, and I just needed to get over it and accept it and embrace it. But it was really a struggle. Both nights I really had to strain to get to even 1,000 words. And then I woke up on Wednesday, like I said at the beginning of the video, just feeling like I didn't want to write the book anymore. Like I said, I decided to scrap that footage and start from a point of starting over. So the only thing I have left to do now is just kind of think about how this redefines my targets for the next couple of weeks and months. Originally, my plan was to finish draft 2 by the end of January and then use February to create a revision plan and then draft 3 in March and April. Yes, my plan was to have it done in 2 months. Ambitious. Ambitious, I know. Now I feel like my plan should be to get this outline in order and then just start drafting. I was going to say by the end of the month, but that's 3 weeks away. This is not going to take me 3 weeks to put together. So maybe I will still target the 25th, and then I'll just be drafting through February, March, and April. Because here's the other thing that I have to consider. February is kind of a big month. There are a lot of events going on. I don't think on purpose. I just think a lot of authors in the community came up with ideas, and February just happened to be the month that they are targeting to launch them. I know Dana is doing her Drabble challenge that I am so excited about. When I heard about it, I was like, if you're familiar with Metal Gear Solid, it was like that noise, that exclamation mark noise, like, what? So excited for that. Definitely going to be participating in that, which means I'm going to be writing Drabbles every single day, and that's going to be a distraction from the draft, yes, but like a welcome one. But then there's also a couple of streamathons, and Evelyn has launched this like Hunger Games style challenge that is drafting related, so that's part of it. But anyway, there's just a lot going on. And then I have my event coming in April that I'm going to need to be planning for, filming for, promoting for, getting ready for. So I think the idea that I was going to be able to draft a 90,000 to 100,000 word manuscript in 2 months, considering my workload and considering my previous success rate, was a little bit ambitious to begin with. So it's probably a good thing. So I guess I'll just keep my 25th. That's 2 weeks. Oh yeah, I can finish this outline in 2 weeks. And then maybe I'll take the week off. I really don't like taking time off. No, I think I'll just start drafting as soon as the outline is done. And that includes if I'm done ahead of schedule. I think I'm okay with that. As much as I like to have a plan and operate on a schedule and look at my calendar and be like, this is the day I'm going to start things, I'm also in this place where I don't want to lollygag. I already feel like I've wasted so much time on this last draft, and I feel like I need to caveat this every single time. I know it's not time wasted because I learned so much. Truly, and I wish I could express to you how much of a revelation and a weight off my shoulders it was to realize that I don't have to address this mystery B plot in this book because it had started as the A plot, and so it felt like it had to be part of this book. It is, but kind of in the background, you know what I mean? The way I look at it is like it's the yellow-eyed demon storyline of Supernatural, right? So it plays a role in the first season, and there are definitely advances in that storyline, but it is not solved, and the mystery certainly is not solved in season 1. Does that make sense? Going back to the monster of the week thing, I'm Supernatural is one of the biggest in that kind of genre. So I think of it often when I'm thinking of like how I want this book series to feel. All of that to say, just realizing that like, oh, I could make it a big focus of the next book, and that could actually tie in with themes that I had already planned for the next book. And then you add in that subplot that I earlier in the draft 2 process had also pushed back to book 2. I felt like my soul leave my body. That's like how much of a weight was lifted, that like, oh my gosh, I don't have to do it now. And that makes this book feel so much more focused and intentional and less busy, while also still having a solid B plot. It's just that originally, because that other B plot was taking up so much oxygen, this new B plot, which was always there, but it was just being pushed to the side, didn't feel as exciting or as important. But anyway, it is important. It's Arceli's like personal arc. I feel like I'm just saying words now, and it's after 10 o'clock now, and so I really need to get to writing if I want it to count for my hard challenge. So, and I've talked so much, my TV has turned off. Come back to me. I swear to God, the Fire Stick like timeout time is stupid. I hate it so much. In fact, before I get back into this, I'm going to figure out how to turn or how to change that setting, because it's like, I feel like it's like 10 minutes and it's like, sorry, we're done. That is all for tonight, and that is all for this vlog. Thank you so much for watching. I so appreciate it. If you like my content and want to support the channel, please like and subscribe, or consider leaving a comment down below. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, leave me that emoji where it's like the pen writing on the paper, because that is what I am about to do for the rest of the night. In my next video, I'm going to be talking a little bit about craft, specifically a very unpopular opinion I have about adverbs and speaker tags. I hope you look forward to it, and I will see you then. Bye!